Hi there, my name's Vince from mymatevince.com, and in this video today it's going to be part 3 of the eBay challenge contest. Amateur versus pro, UK versus US. So it's my mate Vince, which is me, versus Steve from TronicsFix. Steve's the pro, I'm the amateur, and we're having a battle with each other, buying and selling things off eBay in the month of October to see who can make the most money. Now, we started off with 150 UK pounds, that's $200, and this is going to be the 3rd video in the series. So if you haven't seen the other 2, there's going to be a bit of a spoiler now. Yeah, still, it will still be interesting to watch them. So the first one has actually sold. The first one I did was this little train here. This is Duck from Thomas and Friends. This is a Hornby model, and believe it or not, it actually went for £62 plus £4.99 postage. That's just under £67. And this is the amazing thing. I won't say who the buyer is because I haven't got their permission to share the details, but they hadn't watched a YouTube video. It wasn't related to YouTube. So he said he would watch it. He's from Canada. But maybe then that price is a real price and not an inflated price as a sympathy vote towards me, you know, trying to get me to win this contest. Now, that was the first one, so I'm so happy with that. So that's going to get packed up tonight and posted out tomorrow. And the PS Vita here is still for sale at the moment. There is, I think there's about a day left. Yeah, well, nearly 2 days left. And at the moment, that's going for £66. So kind of around the money. Would it go a little bit higher? It might go a little bit higher because there might be a bit more interest in it, purely because it was the one featured in the part 2 of the video. But yeah, so this was part 1, this was part 2, and now in this video it's going to be part 3. So I'm hoping I'm going to be as lucky as I was with these 2 fixes. Now, so far Steve has fixed the PlayStation 4 Slim, which he made a really nice profit on. I think he made $100 on that. And in part 2, he fixed up a Nintendo Switch, which was a really good video. But I don't know what he sold that for yet. But I am still within a chance of winning this because this little green duck here, that's the name of it, has done really well. And you never know, that might creep up in price as well. So I'm still within a fighting chance as long as part 3, part 4 and part 5 go well. So sit back and enjoy, and this is going to be part 3. Okay, so in here we have the 3rd item in this series, so let's open it up and see what it is. Now, because I'm on my 3rd item, I upped the stakes a little bit for this one, so this is definitely going to be more risky than the previous 2 items. Oh, that's nice, a load of rubbish. Wow. Sky lead, it's not a proper lead for it. Okay, oh man, that is dirty. It's supposed to be clean, and it's been opened previously as well. Well, okay, so it's an Xbox One S, and apparently with this it doesn't display. So it's got a problem with its display. Now, if you follow my channel, you would have realised that I had one of these that's only displayed in 480p, and it was to do with a little retimer chip on the inside. And amazingly, I did actually manage to fix it. I soldered in a new chip, and it worked. This thing looks absolutely filthy, but although it's dirty, there doesn't appear to be any damage. Slight, very slight chip out of it here, just a very, very, very tiny chip here, but it actually looks, it looks okay. Right, I'm looking at the HDMI port at the back, and it doesn't look great, if I'm honest with you. Doesn't look very good in there at all. Let's see if I can get a torch and shine in there. So with this one, apparently it doesn't display, so it wasn't like the last one that only did it in 480p. This one doesn't display at all, so it may be, instead of being the chip, it might be a problem with the port itself. I don't know, I'll have to have a good look in there. I can't really see any, it doesn't look like the pins are sticking up all over the place, so it might not be that. Right, let me show you what I paid for it, and then we'll do a test on it and see what happens. So with this one, it was up for just under 90 UK pounds with free delivery, but it was make an offer. So what I did is I made an offer, and he actually accepted it for, I think it was £80, £81 or something. Let me just have a look. There we go. accepted your offer of £80.49p. So, I mean, it's still really expensive. Remember, there's no controller with it. You've got an aftermarket lead, which is absolutely not an aftermarket. You've got a Sky lead. So there's nothing wrong with Sky. Sky's, you know, a good quality. They're going to make a good product, but it's covered in paint and stuff. Nobody would really like to use this on their Xbox. Just, you know, I'm going to have to clean it up, aren't I? It doesn't look nice. If I'm going to resell this, nobody really wants to see a lead like that in the bag. So I'm going to have to try my best to clean that one up. But you know, these leads are compatible with a load of different things, so it doesn't mean just because it's Sky, it's not going to actually affect the Xbox. And the fuse should be, I'll have to double check that, it's probably a 3-amp fuse, which is going to be fine for that. Right, okay, so in the description it just says loads of photos, and it just says, this is funny, this Xbox is in good, clean condition. Right, okay. It's a faulty console. The HDMI port is not working. No controller included. It will come as seen in the images. New and never taken out of the box. That's interesting. Right, okay, so I think what's probably happened is he copied and pasted maybe from one of his other listings, and maybe that Xbox was in clean condition, and maybe that one was new and never taken out of the box. So not really quite sure about the description there, but still I knew what I was buying. I've seen the pictures. In the pictures it did look dirty. I sort of thought that it might not be quite as dirty as the pictures. I thought it might be, you know, to do it lighting or something, but no, it really is as bad as it looks in the pictures. So let's test this thing and see what happens with it. Right, so I'm going to put it on the correct input, and let's turn this on. Right, it doesn't turn on. Let's put it the other way around just in case. Uh-oh. This is not good. Right, okay, it's completely dead. Let's see if I can turn it on via the controller. Mind you, this wasn't synced to it before, so I don't think it will turn on via the controller. Oh, mind you, it just vibrated there when I put it in there. It looks like it's getting power. Right, I wasn't expecting this. When it said didn't display, I was expecting it to turn on and you know, not display, not display because it doesn't turn on. What's interesting though, it doesn't. I thought that used to click. I thought on the Xbox One S it should click. Right, okay, so it says to me the console's getting power because otherwise it wouldn't have any power here, would it, when I plug it in? It's giving a little vibrate. Right, okay, would a faulty HDMI cause it not to turn on? I don't think so. So I suppose first of all I'll have to take it apart and see. God, I'm a bit stumped now. I was expecting it just to be, you know, a HDMI problem or that chip, not the fact it didn't turn on. Right, okay, I'm going to have to take it apart, aren't I, to see what's happening. I can't do any reset or anything like that because it's not doing anything. Hold on. Oh, here we go. That was weird. I just pressed the eject button there and now the light came on. That's weird. Right, I'm not too sure what's happening there. Let's see if it's keeping sync. Yeah, so it's keeping sync. Okay, well, we're getting somewhere now. Let's give it a little bit of a wiggle at the back, see if it suddenly comes on. No. Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the button to turn it off, and then hold down for 10 seconds or whatever, then put it back on and see if that does that kind of like hard reset. And then what I'll do is I'll start it in safe mode, you know, where you press the power button and the eject button for around 10 seconds until it beeps twice. So let's hold this down now. Yeah, that button's not working. Now that's going to cause me problems because I won't be able to put it into safe mode if that button's not working. Yeah, so it shuts down by holding this button here, but yet you can't turn it on via here. I'm going to try again now. No, that's definitely not working. So when you press this, it did boot up last time. I could probably turn it on now just with the controller. I'm going to hold down this button and this button at the same time, but this one's not clicking, so I'm sure it's not working. No, not doing anything there, but yeah, it will probably turn on by holding this down. Yeah, there you go. Right, okay, that button's not working. You know, on this one here, I may have bitten off more than I can chew, and this is what's so annoying, especially with this contest, is that when you go for the higher price items, like, how am I going to make this back now? If I can't fix this, then it doesn't really leave me, well, basically, I need to do my sums, but I don't think it leaves me any money left. Because if I spent £80 on this, 30 something pound, or was it 40 something on the 25 on the train, can't remember what I bought the PS Vita for, 30 something. Do you see what I mean? There's not much money left to actually buy anything else, is there? So really it's not an option. I've got to try to get this to a sellable state, but it seems like I'm dealing with now at least a fault here on a power button, and I've still got a fault with the display. Maybe it's the HDMI port, maybe it's the chip feeding it, I don't know, but this console at this moment in time looks pretty bashed up. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take it apart and first of all see if I can get that button working, and then I'll be able to start it in safe mode, which will start in 480p, to see if we can get any picture. Actually, before I do that, let me do my old trick off the HDMI switch here, just to see if that will allow any output to the TV. Because if you remember my last video, you could get 720p through here for some strange reason. Right, so it's lit up as input 3, so it's definitely recognised it as an input. Nothing happening on TV. Let me just swap the inputs. So some of the pins must be working. I'm just in HDMI 2 at the back now. No, still nothing. Alright, let's try a different one here. Yeah, it's definitely allowing the switching. Okay, so it's definitely worse than the last Xbox. Okay, let's what should I do? I'm going to have a very close look at that HDMI port at the back, see if I can see anything. So let's turn this off. Right, okay, this is interesting. This is the HDMI port at the back. And if you have a look, can you see the pin on the very left hand side is missing? And the one next to it looks a bit crooked. I don't know whether it's just folded over. I might get some tweezers and just try to move it over. Now, I know maybe some of these pins might be ground. I don't actually know. I'd need to look at a pin out to actually see which which ones are the important ones on the HDMI, because maybe that one on the left is very important, and that could be why it's not displaying. There, can you see it there? Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to angle the camera so it can actually view this. I'm going to get some tweezers and just see if I can see if that pin that is lifted there is actually the end pin, or whether it is the second pin along that's lifted up a little bit. Pretty sure that is that pin, and it's not the one next to it. I think the one next to it is completely missing. Right, okay, I'm going to take this thing apart, and then I'm going to see if I can tone out any of the pins from the other side, and it might give me an idea of what's going on with that one there. Well, I'm not sure why that clicking button's not working. Hold on, I'm on the wrong one. 1 second now. Unbelievable. It's missing. Oh, for God's Right, okay, the on and off button is missing, so if you have a close look here, can you see it should be a button like, let me zoom out a bit, should be a button like the sync button here, yeah, you can hear it clicking, or the eject button here, yeah, but it's not, it's missing, okay, and as far as I know it's not in here anywhere, so I wonder whether you can buy replacement ones of them. Maybe you can. This is not a good start. Not a good start at all. I think, I'll be honest with you, I think this Xbox is going to have ended up costing me this competition, which is really annoying because you know, put a bit of work into this. I'm gutted. Right, okay, let's not be too disheartened just yet. Okay, so I've got my little replacement HDMI plug. This is what you would put on the end of the cable. It's got screw terminals on it, but I used it last time to test the ports, and that's exactly what I'm going to do this time. So I know last time there was loads of them shorting out and stuff because the chip was faulty, but now what I'm interested in is pin number 19, because that's the one that I believe, well, I know is missing. I can see from the back that it's missing. So that's what I want to check. Let me just see. I presume it's going to be this one. Yeah, they're all numbered at the back here. So 19 is the top right. Yeah, so I'm just going to go across the others. Yeah. Right, okay, 19 definitely isn't doing anything. Right, so I need to now find a pinout online to find out what pin 19 does. And you never know, maybe that's the thing to give, you know, to give it output the power or something like that. I'm wondering if there's a way I could just temporarily, you know, bodge it up just to see if I get the picture. See, the thing I'm worried about is, you know, I've got to be careful because, for example, if it is the HDMI port that's faulty, if it's this little retimer chip here that I had to change before, and I have to replace this, then really it's not worth it. You know, I might as well just sell the thing for spares, say exactly what's wrong with it, and then maybe somebody will buy it for the, I don't know, the power supply or for the case or something, because this, although it's dirty, I'll give it a good clean, this will clean up absolutely perfect. So I have to be very careful because otherwise I could end up spending a fortune on something. So I kind of want to work out, I already know that 100% there's a fault here. Now some people will sell the Xbox as faulty because the on and off switch doesn't work, in which case then, nice fix, buy one of these. But here I need to, you know, somebody's going to have to get a power supply for it. Well, they can use this, but this needs cleaning up. Sorry, the power cable, and you know, obviously they need HDMI cable. They need a controller. You know, you've got to be a bit careful. This thing's already cost £80. I don't really want to be spending much more money on it. You know, it'd be different if you could get it working for like, you know, 10, 15, possibly £20. Even then, you're not going to make much money. So I have to be very careful. I want to know what's wrong with it before attempting to fix anything, and I think that would be the sensible thing to do. So I'm going to find out what pin 19 does and then get back to the video. Okay, so it's a few hours later now, and I've been having a look online, and basically pin 19 is important. It's the one, I think it's called Hot Plug Detect, HPD. I hope I've got that the right way around. And basically it's what allows the Xbox to know it's plugged into a TV. So I suppose if it's not getting that signal from the TV, maybe it doesn't turn on, you know, the signal coming out of the HDMI. So I emailed Andrew Paul just to see if it was important. You've got to check out his YouTube videos. He's really good. I've watched a few of them before, and they've helped me out on the Xbox hard drive and also on the soldering of this little chip here. I just copied exactly what he did, and luckily I was successful. So I emailed him, and he said, yeah, definitely, you know, if pin 19 is important, and if it's missing, there's a very good chance that that's why my Xbox is not displaying. So it looks like I do have to replace this plug. I'm going to have to watch some videos on it. So what I want to do is I want to get a signal on the TV using this port here before I spend any money on this, because I might be throwing good money after bad. So what I was thinking of doing is, how can I get temporarily, just a temporary fix, just to see if it's working, how can I get pin 19 down here to go onto a HDMI cable? So I've had a look from my old Mr. Telephone days, and I still have like connectors and stuff like that. So this is like a right angled male to female HDMI connector. So what I've done is I've just basically used some cutters, cut into it and pulled it apart. And now if you have a look, this will give me the option to solder on to pin 19. So basically I'm going to be plugging this in here, and remember we've got pin 19 which is missing. So I'm going to be using this one here. I've got to double check that this is pin 19. I'm going to be soldering onto here and using the jumper wire from here, and I'm going to just tap it, or I might just tap it onto it just to see if the signal comes up on the TV, or I might just try to put a little bit of solder on it temporarily, or even just a bit of blue tack with a bit of tape on it, just to see if I can get a signal out to the TV. If I can, and if it looks okay, for example, if it's like a 1080p signal like it should be, then 100% I will change this, because then the Xbox is usable. Even if I don't fix this, it's still going to be worth some money, because you can turn it on and off just with the controller once it's synced up, and you can sync it up by just plugging it into the USB port. I can't remember how I turned it on initially. I think I just hit the eject button and it came on. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to basically just muck around with this to try and get the signal out to the TV. So I'm going to get the soldering iron out now and play around with this, see if I can do something. Okay, so you can see what I've done now. Basically I've got my adapter plugged in here. From pin 19 I've just done a jumper wire going round, and I've just put the tiniest bit of solder on there. It looks a bit of a mess, but it's just barely hanging on in there, and I've put some Kapton tape here just to secure it, because as soon as I put this components back, you know, the power supply and stuff on top of it, one little knock here and it's just going to come flying off. So now I'm hoping if all the other pins are intact, then this is going to be my new socket now, and I'm hoping pin 19 will work, because I've jumpered it from here straight onto the board here. So yeah, I'm going to just temporarily put it back into the Xbox, you know, put all the components in it and stuff, and then we'll put it on the TV and see if we get anything. Okay, let's plug in the HDMI cable. Okay, leave that like that. Now I'm going to try and turn it on via here. Excellent. See if anything comes up on the TV. Look, something's happening. Yes, 720p. Yes, look at that. Fantastic. Oh, what a lovely little hack. Look at that in motion there. Yeah, look at that. So that pin 19 is an important one. So if one of the ground ones went, it will probably be okay, because I believe on HDMI that you have a few ground wires as well. But it is only 720p. I want to see if it will go in 1080p. Now I also have to look into whether I can get one of these switches down here. Right, okay. Your family is using Microsoft Family features. Right, let's have a look, see if I can change it to 1080p. Also, there's no sound. Hold on. See if there's sound now. Yeah, there is, yeah. Right, okay. Display and sound. Video output. Excellent, so they just must have been using a 720p TV. Right, well that's great news. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a HDMI cable, plug it into my 4K TV, and see if it comes up as 4K. So I'm just going to shut this down because, you know, obviously that HDMI is already temperamental, so I don't want to be unplugging it when it's live. But that's fantastic. Right, okay, we're on the 4K TV now. Let's see if it will pick it up as 4K. Yes, it does. Yeah, and I've got green ticks across the board there, and if I go onto my TV, there you go, 3840 times 2160, 60p, and it's UHD colour as well. So I'm really happy with that then. That proves 100% that it is the HDMI port that is faulty, and it looks like nothing else is faulty. So what I'm going to have to do is, obviously, this is risky because right now, again, it's a working Xbox, although it's completely hacked at the back. If you were careful, it would probably work fine as it is, but, you know, I need to sell this one on because it's part of the competition, so I'm going to have to try and solder in a new HDMI port. Whether it will go wrong, there's a very good chance it will, but you know, I have to attempt it anyway, don't I? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to order one off eBay, and I'm also going to look into the SMD, so that means like surface mount device, tactile switch, and see if I can get any that looks similar to that one there, so at least I might be able to get the power button working as well. If it was possible to get those two working, all I would have to do then is give it a really good clean, and it looks like it will be a working Xbox One S, which would be fantastic, especially if I can get the parts relatively cheaply, and if I can get it fixed for, you know, under £90, then it would be quite nice. You know, I think there could possibly be a little bit of profit on that. But yes, so far I'm really happy, especially with that little hack. I think that's going to come in useful again. So hopefully, you know, that might be of use again in the future if I get more of these. So that's what I'm going to do now. Next time you see this video will be a few days later because I need to order up those parts. Okay, so I've got the part on order from eBay and it should be arriving hopefully in a couple of days. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to remove this HDMI socket here. Now, I've been having a look at various different videos online. I've been watching Andrew Paul, and most people seem to do it with hot air. The only thing is I'm slightly worried because it seems to need a hell of a lot of heat to be able to make it come out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a soldering iron to begin with, and I'm just going to try to add some solder to these ground pins here. And then I'm going to see if I can use a solder sucker to get rid of some, because the way I look at it is, even if I can just get rid of a tiny bit, it's all going to help. If I could get rid of it with a soldering iron, I don't know if it's possible, but if I could, then I would be happier, because then you know, I think there would be less risk of damaging the pads, because I'm very worried that these 19 little pads down here, they're very long and thin. I'm worried that I'm going to damage them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to be working on the ground pads, and then if I can get the ground pads off, they're probably the, you know, the biggest clump of solder. Maybe with the little pins there, I can just add some flux, add the hot air, you know, the hot air to it, and then maybe I'll be able to lift it. If I can get this out without damaging the board, then there is a chance I will, it's a chance I might be able to get the new socket in without causing damage. My main worry is actually taking this socket off the board to begin with. So that's what I'm going to be working on right now. Now, because it's going to take me ages, I'm just going to be, I'll be filming it, but I'm just going to be fast forwarding through it, because it's going to, you know, it's going to take me absolutely ages, and there's nothing really, I don't know what I'm doing here. I probably am going to be doing it wrong. Maybe I will have to use heat eventually. So right now I'm just kind of experimenting, and I'm going to be using a nice big tip on my soldering iron to give it as much heat as possible, because if I use a small tip, it's not going to transfer much heat into it. And the reason I'm using solder, which sounds weird to add solder to it, but basically by adding leaded solder to it, then it should make it easier then to come off. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be working on. I'm going to be using a solder sucker and also some soldering wick as well to hopefully wick up the solder into this. So that's what I want to do. I want to get as much solder as possible off this connection. Right, I'm adding some heat to it now because I can't really get any more solder off just using the soldering iron and the wick. So I've got this set to 480C, and I'm just going to concentrate on this side to begin with. Now remember, it doesn't matter if I damage the port when it comes off, as long as I don't damage the board. Right, I'm going to try and heat it up from the other side now. It's definitely starting to loosen. Excellent, got it out. Brilliant. I was getting a bit worried there because it was taking so long. Good news is I don't think I've done any damage to the pads. Just going to put on the soldering iron and try to whip this off while the board's still warm. Okay, so I'm really happy with how that has turned out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give it a good clean to get rid of all the gunk from the board, and then give it a nice close inspection. Really good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add a little bit more solder to this one now, so that when not to the pins, but sorry, not to these ground pins, but just these 19 pins in the middle, the tiny ones. I'm just going to add a little bit of solder to there, so when I get my new socket, I can just, you know, do the 4 ground pins, and then hopefully I might be able to just tap each of them, and hopefully the solder will all stick together. First impressions are that I'm really happy with that, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the macro feature, zoom right in, and then have a look at it. Look at that, I am so happy with that. There's still a little bit of solder just in the ground pad things here, the holes, but I'm pretty sure the new HDMI port's going to go through there no problem. If not, I just have to take that little bit of solder out, but look at those pins. They've come out perfect. I couldn't have wished for that to be any better. So yeah, that's really good. Just need to clean out these bits here. These are just the locating pins for the new socket. Yeah, so I think I was very lucky on this one. And if you have a look at the other side, luckily there's been no damage anywhere. Okay, so it's the day after now, and the HDMI spare or replacement port has arrived. It's in here. And this is the old one that we took out. So what I'm going to do is just open it up and compare it. They certainly look to be very similar, but I just want to make sure obviously that it's exactly the same. So I'm going to get the camera set up on a tripod, and then when we come to do the soldering, I'm going to zoom right in. So what I intend to do is basically place it in here. Hopefully it's got little locating pins that will go in these 2 things here. I'm going to solder up the ground ones first, these edge ones, and then I'm going to use flux, and then I'm just going to get so I'm using a big soldering iron for these ones, and then I'm going to change the tip and use a very fine one just to tap, maybe a fine flat one just to tap along here, and there's already a bit of solder on here, and I'm hoping then it will just all stick together. Well, that's the idea anyway. Right, let's get this on the tripod. Right, first things first, let's open this up and see if it is the same. Excellent, it actually is made by the same company, Foxconn, and it says X896157. Oh, so that's brilliant, so it doesn't look like it's some sort of cheap aftermarket job. Right, excellent. So, is that going to locate in there okay? Yes, it is. Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, I can't really see properly in my own eyes, but hopefully when I zoom in on the camera it's going to look good. Right, okay, so I've just placed it in the hole. It was quite a snug fit, probably because of the locating pins. And looking at it there, it already seems to be in the right place, doesn't it? Each pin seems to be lining up with, you know, with the actual HDMI port, you see? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put pressure on this downwards when I'm going to solder up the edge ones here. And hopefully it will work. So I've never done a HDMI port before, so I'm sort of quite excited, but at the same time a little bit apprehensive as well. Let's just make sure we're on the right one. Right, we're this one here. Do you know what, I think it's going to be better if I zoom out a bit and I just zoom in when it comes to the actual pins. Right, so I'm going to get some flux. Okay, so I've got my iron at the moment set to 350, and I'm going to use some big solder just for the edges, and then I'm going to move on to the fine solder for the actual tips itself. So I'm going to try and put some downwards pressure on it. Go a bit hotter with the soldering iron. I'm going to go up to 400. Okay, so I've done the back two, so now I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to try to do the front two here. So again, just use a bit of flux. Right, okay, that certainly seems to be in position. I'm not going to clean up the board yet because I'm going to try to do these pins now. So I've just got to work out a way that the camera can see this while it doesn't get in my way. So let's just rearrange things a bit. Okay, so I've positioned it here. Hopefully I'm not going to get in the way completely. I'm just going to put a bit of flux across here. And I've changed the tip on the soldering iron to a small one. And I'm hoping now, maybe I should lower it down a little bit. Maybe I'll put it to 375, see how I get on with that. I'm hoping just by kind of tapping it and dragging it back, there might be enough solder on the actual pads to go onto it. If not, I'm going to have to try and add a bit of solder. But for that I have got thinner solder if I was to do that, so I've got this very thin stuff here. Right, so we're at temperature now, so let's see how this first ever replacement of a My Mate Vince HDMI port goes. Really, I've got the camera in the wrong place because I can't, my soldering iron's kind of in the way of what I'm trying to see. can't really tell if they're stuck or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it a couple more times, and then I'm going to use some tweezers and just give them a little nudge each. Right, okay, I can't really tell. I'm going to get some tweezers and nudge each of them, and if they're moving, then obviously it hasn't stuck. I can't see whether they're bridged or not. Might be okay. Right, let's get some tweezers. None of them feel like they're loose, but there's still a load of flux there. I thought the flux would have burnt off. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean it up and then see what it looks like after it's been cleaned up. Maybe it's the flux that's helping them stick down at the moment, so once I get rid of all of that, then I'll know for sure. I'm just going to flip it over and try and clean the other side. Okay, so that's cleaned up now, so I'm going to do another test with the tweezers. Right, okay, well they're all certainly stuck. I can't see any bridges, I don't think. I'll just move that around. I don't think I can anyway. So, do you know what? I'm really happy with that. The only bit that looks a little bit untidy is the, the edges. I put a little bit too much solder on those ground planes at the edges, or ground, whatever they're called. But, they've definitely gone through. Because when I did those two and I looked at the bottom, it definitely had come through. Let me just see now where we are. And zoom out for this bit. Yes, it was these ones here. So I think that is going to be okay. I mean, obviously I'll have to test it and see, but it seems to be secure. That's not going anywhere. I'm happy with that, it's nice and flat. Right, okay, so yeah, that's really, do you know what? For the first one, I'm so happy with that, because it was quite nice not to have to use the hot air, because you feel like you're more in control when you're using the hot air and you're not used to it. You're worried about, like blowing off all the other components, but with the soldering iron, as long as you don't shake too much, it's kind of okay. So obviously it might not work, I need to test it to see if it does work, but if that does work, and I can't see why it wouldn't, I would be definitely confident doing more of them. So what I have to do now is I have to wait until I ordered up some switches for this little, the little board here with the missing switch. So what I've done is I've unsoldered the broken switch that was on it, and I've ordered up some switches, but they're not an exact match. I think from memory that these were like 3.5, 4mm by 3.5 or something like that. Can't really remember what they were, but the ones I've ordered are more a square shape, while these ones here are more rectangle. If you look at the one over here, it's slightly more rectangle, but I'm hoping I might be able to get it to fit in. If not, I can get these from China for £8. Realistically, that's probably what I'll have to do, but I can't wait on this contest for that. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to nick one of these, take one of these off a working Xbox One S that I have, one that I fixed in the previous video, and then what I'll have to do is when the Chinese one comes through, I'll have to pop that in my working one. So I know that's slightly bending the rules, but what can I do? It's going to take about 3 or 4 weeks to arrive, and by then the competition's over. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it's still, you know, fixing it using a replacement part. It's just that I didn't buy the replacement part, I've already had the replacement part. So I think what I'm going to do is, because those switches are not going to come through now, they might arrive tomorrow's Saturday, or they might come through on Monday. So I might not be able to, you know, I won't know until I get the switches through whether or not to order the Chinese part or not. But I'm tempted to quickly connect this up to the TV just to see if it is going to work or not. I've temporarily put it back together. I haven't actually put any screws in anything yet because I actually want to give it a good clean out. But I just want to see if this HDMI port is now working. So I'm using a 5-meter cable, because just to make it a little bit harder, just in case there's any distance issue. Right, okay, I'm going to plug that in there. I'm on the correct input on the TV. So now I haven't got an on-off switch, but if I hit the eject button, hopefully it will come on. There we go. Excellent, fan's going. Yeah, fan's whirring. So now we just have to see if anything's going to come up on the TV. Yes, look at that. Fantastic. Oh, I was hopeful on this one because, you know, it went so, the removal and the fitting the new one went so well. But you still never know, especially when you haven't done it before. You sort of worry that maybe there's not enough solder or something like that. But that looks good. Right, okay, so I'm just going to make sure it does actually go to the Xbox home screen. I'm not going to test it on like 4K or anything yet, because I'll do that at the very end of the video when I've you know, got all the bits completely fixed. There we go, it's there again. Perfect. So no hack this time, no dodgy wires sticking out of it through little adapters, straight in there. So I'm really happy with that. With the first time doing that, I think it's come out well. Now all I have to do is give it a real good clean. I want to make this like sparkling again, because you can see it's just it's disgusting. So I'm going to get in all these little bits here with a toothbrush, and I'm going to make this spotless again. Okay, so I've just been scrubbing this bit here, and it's come up really good. If you look at the inside now, I've cleaned all the fan, and you know, blew it out, got rid of all the dust, and look to the back. All come up really good. Good thing about the Xbox One S is because it's white, it's quite satisfying when you clean it, because you really do get a very good finish. And you know, it's nice because it goes from like a horrible sort of off-white brown colour to pure white again. Cleaned up all this top here, and it's come up really good. So now I just need to tackle this cover here, but I'm confident when I get a toothbrush in that and some warm water that will come up perfectly clean. And now I've cleaned the case of it, and it's come up really good. If you look closely, you can still see scratches, but I've gone in with a toothbrush into every single hole, and some of the stubborn bits I had to get like a little needle and clean out a couple of the bits of dirt from the front here. But it's come up absolutely perfect, so I've given it a real good clean inside and out. And now you can see just the transformation of it. It just looks so much cleaner than it did before. So I'm happy with that now, so when it goes back together, I think it's going to look nice and clean. Okay, so it's the next day now, and my little switches have arrived in the post. They didn't cost much money at all, but unfortunately they're too big. So if you have a look here, they need to be roughly around the same size as the light, and they're not, and even their legs are spread too far apart as well. So if you have a look at the solder bits on in the middle of the two legs, there's 3 there, so the outer 2 legs would need to go on the outer 2 pads, and even if I was to solder that, which I would just to get away with, I'm then really far away from the top ones there, so I'd have to solder, I'd have to sort of bend the legs underneath this switch here, and then I wouldn't be able to solder it. So unfortunately I can't get these to work. And looking around on eBay and stuff, these were the smallest ones I could find. I know if you knew where to look, you would be able to get ones to fit, but from the research that I did, I can't find them. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to buy a new one of these boards. So it looks like they're around £8 from China. So I'm going to order one of them up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put the one from my other Xbox One S into this one for the competition. And then when the one from China arrives, I'll just place it into my other Xbox One S. So at least I know then it's going to be working. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I'm going to take the board out of this good Xbox One S. This was the one where I changed a little retimer chip, and then I'm going to put it into the one that I'm doing for the competition now. So I'm just going to fast forward through this because I've taken them apart many times already. Here we have the official Microsoft one, and with nice switches that work. Such a shame that the seller didn't mention it because, you know, that's cost me another £8. But still, nothing I can do about that. Right, okay, let's pop this in now in the other Xbox One S. Oh, there we go. Well happy with that. Click, 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 and a HDMI port, which is nice and new. Look at it. I'm so proud of that. Here we go, so it is now finished, and compared to what it did look like, it looks absolutely amazing now, but it is still scratched up and well used. So if you let the light bounce off it, let me see if I can get it. There you go. Can you see all the scratches here now? But they're not deep scratches, they're just, you know, scratches on the top of it. And when you're about a metre away, there you go, you can see them all there. So it looks like something's been stored on it, or maybe even just a controller rubbing up and down it. But if you're kind of like a metre away, then it does look good, and it looks lovely and clean now. Remember before there was all like stains on the top of it? I don't know whether something had spilt on it. But now I'm pretty sure every one of these little holes is perfectly clean. I've also spent ages cleaning up this Sky plug as well. Remember, this was covered in paint, so this is now looking pretty immaculate. Now, interestingly enough, you might remember at the beginning of the video I said that it had a 3 amp fuse, and 3 amps is going to be fine because in the UK 240 volts at 3 amps is going to be up to 720 watts. Now, I know the Xbox One S is nowhere near 720 watts. It's well under 200 watts to my knowledge. But this is the weird thing. I checked on my Xbox One S that came, you know, UK spec, straight from Microsoft, hasn't been tampered with, straight out of the box, and it's got a 5 amp fuse in. I also checked on my Xbox One X, and that also had a 5 amp fuse in, and I think, can't remember now if I'm dreaming, but I think I checked my PlayStation 4 Slim, and that also had a 5 amp fuse. Now, all of these things are well under 720 watts, so I don't know why it's protected by a 5 amp fuse and not a 3 amp fuse. So if you know the answer to that, please put it down in the comments. What I've done is I've put a 5 amp fuse in, a Bussman I think it is, which is the same as the one that came with the Xbox One S. So you know, this will be absolutely fine. I'm just curious as to why it's protected with a 5 amp and not a 3 amp. So please, if you know, put it down in the comments, because I would have put this down as 3 amp all day long, but I'm copying Microsoft because I'm sure their engineers know a hell of a lot more than me. So yeah, there we go. Let me just show you the underneath of it. And again, we have a good amount of scratching going on, but the main thing is now it's not grimy anymore. It's nice and clean, but you can see it's had a hard life. This has definitely had a hard life. Now, the things that are still missing on it are, obviously we've got a Sky lead rather than an Xbox lead. There's no controller, and as well as that, can you see the little rubber feet are missing? Now, I've had a quick look on eBay in the UK, and unless I'm typing in the wrong things, there's no listing for it. You can find them in America, but I'm not going to pay the £8 or £9 shipping from America for a packet of little rubber things. Again, it doesn't affect it. It's not going to slide away when it's flat. It's just that little things like that add to it. And if I had them, I would have put them in, but unfortunately, I haven't got them. Right, okay, let's just show you all the buttons now. So if you have a listen, that's exactly what it should be doing, not what it did earlier. That's the eject button, and if you have a look down here, we've got the sync button. So compared to what it was like, I'm really happy with this. So we're going to plug it in now to the 4K TV and test it out and see how it's performing. I'm sure it's going to perform fine on 4K because it performed fine on 1080p, but let's test it out now. So here we have it all set up on the 4K TV. I've kept the same long 5-meter HDMI cable because I just want to make sure that that port's going to work over, for example, a longer distance. I've also plugged an Ethernet cable into the back of it, and I'm using the Sky lead with the 5 amp fuse. So let's turn it on. Excellent, so you can see now that works straight away. And now let's wait for it to come up in here. There we go. Right, so I'm just going to fast forward through this bit now until it loads up, and then we will put it on 4K, make sure it's working with 4K HDR. Display and sound, video output, resolution, 4K. Keep this resolution, yep. And 4K TV details, yep, green ticks everywhere there. And let's just make sure that it is 4K when we do this. There you go, 3840, 2160, and it says UHD colour, which is this TV's version of HDR. Right, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a 4K Blu-ray just to make sure that that's working. Right, the only one I've got is this 4K Ultra HD, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Right, it's going to force me now to download the app. Right, okay, so as you can see, 4K Blu-ray is working absolutely fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to download a quick digital game. So there we have it, a Sega game working on an Xbox 360 emulated onto the Xbox One S. Right, so that makes sense. But yeah, so there you go. It appears to be working okay. I just downloaded that game purely because it was a small size, it was under 1 GB. So we had a 4K Blu-ray working fine, and obviously you can download games absolutely fine, so that means the Ethernet port is working, and it means that wired internet is working. Now when I come to sell this, obviously I will check as much as I can on it to make sure it is all working fine. To my knowledge at this moment in time, it appears to be working just fine. So a quick little breakdown here. You can see I paid £80, 49p for the actual Xbox, £8.41 for that board, and that was the cheapest one I found from China. And then the HDMI port was £7.90. Now you would be able to get that cheaper if you were to get it from China, but I didn't have that luxury because I'm against the clock here. You know, I can't wait for 3 weeks for that to arrive. But overall, I ended up paying £96.80p. So, you know, just under £100. I had a look on eBay. The cheapest one, which is just the console, is £145. Remember, this price here, you have to include a controller. This one here is without a controller, it's £145. Now you might think, wow, that's, you know, like nearly £50. You should be well pleased with that. But the problem is, by the time I take into account my postage, and by the time you pay your eBay and PayPal fees, realistically, if it went for this sort of price here, and this console for £145 may be in better condition than my one here, I don't know. But believe it or not, there's going to be very little money in it. If you were to take into account the amount of time I spent on this, then realistically, you know, you're earning way under minimum wage. But that's not what this is about. You know, this is about the competition, and it's about learning. And I am really pleased that I did change that HDMI port over. And the main thing is, when I first of all unboxed this, I was really disappointed because it looked a mess. And where I was really gutted, and you could probably tell by my reaction, was when that power button didn't work. I thought that, yeah, that should have been mentioned in that description. So at that stage there, I sort of thought I bought a real lemon. But luckily, I've turned this round now, and it's not the best Xbox One S out there. It's still got scratches and scuffs on it, but it's definitely, it's clean and it looks relatively tidy now. So I would say now that it is in good, you know, I would say that it is in good condition. So for me, the video was a success because I took something that was faulty and looked absolutely disgusting, and now it's working and performing well. So if you're interested in this one, I will pop it down, the eBay link down in the description, and maybe think about bidding. Remember, there's no controller on it, so don't go crazy with the bids, because I'm sure if you look around you can probably get a boxed one for, you know, a boxed one with a controller, and maybe even some games for probably about £160. So you really need to take that into account. So this is the third one now that will hopefully sell for more than what I bought it for. And I think for the fourth one, I've already got it. So the fourth one is going to be something completely different. Probably a higher risk one again, but I think definitely more interesting. And yeah, I mean, it depends whether you're into it or not, but as a kid I loved them, and as an adult I love them as well, so you'll have to wait and see what part 4 is, but hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully you enjoyed this part 3. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to watch part 4 and part 5, and also to see other TronicsFix videos and how-to videos as well. And also don't forget to check out Steve from TronicsFix. His part 2, in my opinion, was absolutely brilliant. You know, I won't spoil it for you, but it's to do with the Nintendo Switch, and I thought the fault finding behind it, I just really liked the video. So check it out, and hopefully his part 3, part 4 and part 5 will be as good. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye now.